Hey, good Wednesday. It is Wednesday, May 25th, 3 days before my birthday. All right. Recording at 9:02 a.m. live on YouTube. Okay. Um, well, first of all, before I get started, um, let me just say I want to give my condolences and prayers to the victims in the Texas school elementary school shooting in Texas. As of today, there are 19 students that lost their lives in a shooting by a senseless act of an 18-year-old who just bought a gun, his guns for the couple of days before the shooting. I'm not sure what his motive was, but we'll probably never know since he was shot and killed by local law enforcement down there. But it's just getting to be too much, guys. It's getting to be too much. The school shootings. There was a grocery store shooting last week, and it just becomes senseless. I don't know what else to say except I offer my condolences and prayers. You know, and so just a senseless act. Okay. Transitioning. Okay. First of all, subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Become a follower, get notification when I go live or when I post a new video. Uh, Not only do I do Hawkeye content here, I also do content about my weight loss health journey. I do random content, of other sports, youth sports, beach scenes, cities, airplane rides. Yeah, just random stuff. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff on this channel. But right now you're going to see that I'm doing a lot more Hawkeye content than anything else. But please follow. You'll get to see the other stuff, and you can go through all my other videos and see. None of them are super long. The random stuff. So just enjoy uh, and do that, and follow us on the Facebook page Iowa Hawkeye Sports. Um, we're still kind of stuck at 2.9K right now. I would love to get to 3,000. We're inching closer, and I thought maybe we would hit that about 2 weeks ago. This is probably, a little bit of a slower stretch than I anticipated, but yeah, the goal would be to get over 3K and then, start working toward that 4K mark. Um, but yeah, 2.9. So thank you for those who are part of the 2.9. If you could share that with everybody, that would be fantastic. If you could actually subscribe to this, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's get started. Let's first of all, we got some anti-recruiting news. Okay, today, um, a guy by the name of Orlando Trader, who is signed with Iowa to play in the 2022 class. He's listed as a defensive back. Probably cornerback would be his position, from what I hear. Uh, has decided to reopen his recruitment. I'm not sure how that works since he's already signed with Iowa. He's already signed a commitment letter to play at Iowa. And funny thing is on Rivals recruiting page, he was listed as a hard commit. Which means it's Iowa or no way. But so what has changed his mind? Well, if you look at the 2023 class, which really shouldn't make a big difference, Iowa's got after a lot of DBs in that class. There's 9 people in that class, and we'll talk more about that later. But I believe 3 or 4 of those are DBs. But whether they, depending on what position they would play, cornerback or safety or something. Okay, so that's quite interesting. But this guy arrives on campus a year before these guys do. Would show up this summer, would have a chance to prove himself, and with the graduations for next year, has a real opportunity to slide in and if he works hard, become a starter for next year. because he would have an advantage being in the program 1 year ahead of the guys that are being recruited for the 2023 class. So I'm not sure what his real reason is. My understanding is that there was an early enrollee that's a DB who from the same class that he was in spring practice, and so I couldn't find that guy's name. I did look. Let's see if I can find him real quick here. No, I don't have him listed. I can't find him. So I don't know if that affected this guy or not. So I think the guy, Orlando Trader, I think he's a 4-star recruit out of Michigan. And so will this hurt Iowa? They got plenty of DBs, between coming back this year and next year coming back, and got 2023 class coming in following year. They're really focused on the defensive back, but I think he could have gotten some playing time this year. I really do. To set himself up for a starting position next year. And I just think, he shouldn't be worried about the 2023 class. If you're as good as you think you are, you should never worry about your competition. You should just go out there and say, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you in practice. I'm going to prove that that's my spot, not yours. So I'm not sure what has changed, and I don't know if we'll know, honestly, because they don't usually tell us. And the fact that he reopened his recruitment doesn't mean that he still can't come back to Iowa, guys. Iowa could still work on him and say, hey, we need you. We want you, and say, don't worry about these other guys that we're recruiting. Iowa can still re-recruit him. He's not saying I'm leaving Iowa. He's saying that, that's on the surface, that's what it appears to be, yes, that he's leaving Iowa. But it doesn't mean that Iowa can't recruit him and bring him back, change his mind. We've seen that in the past. Okay. All right. So that's kind of like, I call that my anti-recruiting news. I was kind of like, looking for things to talk about today because it is the off season and there's not a whole lot else going on. So I was kind of looking at the 2023 recruiting class. All right. A little bit. Okay, for the football team. Okay, right now we're currently ranked 14th in the nation with 9 recruits. However, Iowa's average star rating is 3.11. All right. So, right now these are going to be based early. This early is going to be based more on quantity plus quality. But if you got a lot of quantity, you don't have to have a lot of quality because your 3 stars will add up in a hurry. And Iowa has 1 4-star in that class. The rest are 3 stars. But interesting enough, Northwestern is ahead of Iowa at number 9. Okay. But they have 14 recruits with an average rating of 3.07. So just to put that in perspective, it appears, they've out-recruited us. They're not. They just have more players committed, 5 more players. So their total number, because you add up the stars plus you take the number of commits, like in this case, 14 for Northwestern, and multiply it by the stars, that they have, and that's what you get for their total score. Okay. OSU, Ohio State, I guess, is ranked number 4. They have 10 commits, but they have an average rating of 3.8. Okay. And so they'll move up. Penn State is ranked at number 3. They have 12, but their average rating compared to Ohio State is 3.42. So they'll move down because they're higher by the fact that they have 12 recruits over 10 versus thing. The other thing I found interesting is Michigan, Michigan State are both behind Iowa in the rankings. Michigan State at 20, Michigan at 21, but they each only have 6 recruits. So and their averages are 3.5 and 3.3, so their star rating average is higher than Iowa's. So they should move up as they get more recruits. Minnesota has 7 recruits, but their average rating of is 3.0, so they should stay behind Iowa overall when all the recruiting is done. Here's what I found interesting, though. Iowa State is number 29 in the rankings with 7 recruits, but they're only behind us because they only have 7 recruits. Iowa has 9 because they have an average star rating of 3.4. Guys, if you guys don't think Matt Campbell isn't getting something done at Iowa State, he's getting it done. He just needs to have some talent and some depth. He had talent last year, but I don't know if he had the depth or not. But he's working on building some good depth there. Wisconsin's number 31 with 6 recruits. They're only slightly higher than Iowa on the average star rating, which is 3.17. And so it's kind of strange, but I think Iowa and Wisconsin will probably end up somewhere similar, when it's all said and done, when they get everybody they want. And Nebraska is the last one I'll do because I just tried to do some teams of significance. They're 34 with 5 recruits with an average rating of 3.2. So Nebraska continues to recruit talent. However, their coaches continue to not use their talent correctly, which is why they're not winning. I'm not sure, what they got to do, which is why it makes Nebraska scary because anytime Nebraska is going to go off on people one of these days. And they got closer last year with every single one of their 7 losses coming, or maybe it was 8. But anyway, with every one of those losses coming with inside of 7 points. So a lot of things could have changed if the ball had bounced their way or a call gone their way last year. And so, yeah, Nebraska is the most scariest team in this ranking for me because just because they have talent and they're going to go off on it. And this year they're bringing in transfer quarterback that has a lot of experience, and he looks better than the last 2 QBs for Nebraska. He looks way better, a lot more confident. I don't think we're going to count on him to make mistakes and throw interceptions like the last 2 did. Okay, so that's where I thought that it was kind of interesting right there. I just wanted to compare the 2023 compared to next year and try to put things in perspective. So, I'm assuming that our number 14 ranking will go down. But did you guys know that with the NCAA, when they also eliminated football divisions, or you don't have to have football division, it's up to the conference now. And most people assume that the Big Ten will eliminate conferences after this football season's over, or divisions, will eliminate the division and go to some protected teams, 2 or 3 protected, and rotate the others in and out of the schedule more frequently, which means, like I said last week, Iowa would meet Ohio State more often than they have been, which seems to be about every 7 years now. Although, COVID wrecked the year that we were actually supposed to play them. And so they took that game off the schedule. Okay. Which is, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really bother me until Iowa gets to the level of Ohio State and can consistently beat them. I'm not sure I want to play Ohio State very often. Yes, we got them in the woodshed game, Everything just clicked that game. Everything clicked 7 years ago on that game. I can't believe it's been 7 years, but I think, was it 7 years? No, I'm sorry. It was only 5 years ago. So plus we're playing at the Horseshoe this year, so I'm not sure that, if you follow my too early predictions, I've got that one as a loss, not a win, this year, Anyway, so that was that on the rankings. Okay. I mean, just like, yeah, don't get too crazy into, thinking, oh, Iowa's number 4 or number 14. Yeah, number 14. Oh no, Northwestern, they're number 9. Yeah. Remember, it's quantity, then quality. Add them up together, and you get your average rating, which is where you get your total points, which is how it's figured out, not by the average rating. Because you can see that there are teams ahead of Iowa with a lower average rating, and teams behind Iowa with a higher average rating. Okay, all right. So one of the questions I asked for questions, and I encourage it every week to ask questions. Just use the hashtag um, Iowa Sports Mailbag. Okay, hashtag Iowa Sports Mailbag, or maybe that's what it is. It makes it easier for me to find it. I only got one question this week. That's from our Jack's Florida Hawk. He wanted to know what freshmen or redshirt freshmen besides X do I think will make the biggest impact this year. Um, well, that's interesting. Um, this is going to be one of these years where I don't see a lot of freshmen or redshirt freshmen making huge names for themselves. Okay. Here are a couple. I mean, besides X at safety, I also understand that TJ Hall was making a splash in the spring, and he may see some playing time too. I don't know that either one of these two will be starters, but I think they'll work into the role. X could be a starter by the end of the season. Kind of like Keegan Johnson did last year, where they kind of worked him in a little bit here and there, and then he eventually became the starter at wide receiver. Uh, moving Tyrone Tracy out of that starting spot. Um, so I could see that happening with X. TJ Hall, I just have to go off by what people were saying about the oohs and the ahs and what the coaches have said in interviews. So he looks like another guy that could see some substitute duty, go in and fill in here and there, and if injuries take over that spot, that safety spot, then these guys could probably have a chance to make more noise. Okay. So I got Aaron Graves. I think he's going to make some noise his first year on the defensive line. He's listed as a defensive end. Iowa in the past has worked their defensive end slowly. As we know, sometimes they just use them as third down. Go get the quarterback on third down, things like that. And then by their junior and senior years, they use them more frequently. I mean, we see more probably 3 and 4 year starter defensive ends than seeing him in the first year. Although we have seen him play, so I think he could make some noise. Aaron Graves. Also, I think who can make a lot of noise and probably will be Brody Brecht. He's a redshirt freshman. Right now he's playing baseball, probably tearing it up. I think he's a reliever for the baseball team, so you never know when he's going to come in and play in relief. And so, so you can't plan on a game that, hey, I'm gonna go see Brody pitch because I hear he throws these 90-mile-an-hour fastballs with peaking up to 100. We want to see him throw that. Okay. Hopefully the game you choose to go to, because right now they're in the playoffs, he pitches. Okay. But I could see him, and here I could see him making some noise, not only at the wide receiver, but I could see him on special teams, doing, as punt return. I know Charlie Jones is supposed to be the punt returner and the kickoff returner, but that doesn't mean they can't put Brody back there in a spot and try him and use him because, he's got the sure hands. But don't be surprised to see them use him as a little bit of a running back. And so that could happen. So anyway, We talked about Aaron Graves. He's the number 2 person in the class. X is the number 1. Okay, number 3 in the class is Eli Raridan as a tight end. I don't see him getting a whole lot of playing time this year, unless the 3 people ahead of him. We know we got our 2 sure starters. I mean, or it depends. If they use a 2 tight end set, but they could go to a 3 tight end set, and they brought in a guy in the transfer portal. I believe his name is Steven Silianos. And I think he's more of a blocking tight end, which could help Iowa a lot more because they could use, as we know from last year, they could use a little more blocking in the O line there, and um, so he could help. Do a 3 tight end set with throwing him out there to push downfield a little bit and blocking, and maybe free one of his other guys, his teammates, to get free. But yeah, that's why I don't see Eli getting in as much. As a freshman, he may get some spot duty here and there, because you are allowed to play up to 4 games without losing your red shirt. So I'm sure they're going to want to see what they can do. Um, so that I think also who could make some noise. There's some D-line guys: Caden Crawford, Brian Allen, Hunter Dale, who's actually a defensive tackle. These guys might be able to, I think they will see some playing time this year. They're highly thought of, but I do think they can get in, see some playing time. But I think the defense is pretty well set. There's opportunities for these guys though to maybe play their 4 games, and we'll see if injuries crop up that those guys would be the next in line to get more snaps. I don't see any of them starting though. Any of the defensive line guys starting this year. But I do see them probably getting in and playing when they have to go a little deeper. And especially when the cool thing is if Iowa gets into any blowouts one way or the other, these guys might come in and see some time there without blowing their red shirt if they don't have to, just to get them some experience. Okay. All right. We got the at running back. I think we've got 2 scholarship running backs coming in this year: Caleb Johnson and Jazium Patterson. How much these guys get used and get in the games this year will really depend on the Williamses, because they're slated as 1 and 2, but these guys weren't in camp yet, and so I don't know if they've got something better to offer than the Williamses. I do know that I think a lot of people were impressed, even though we lost to Kentucky. Just how impressive that they were against Kentucky. I mean, they were getting huge chunks of line. They're like straight down runner. They're not an Acklam Wadley. They're not a Tyler Goodson, where they want to run to the edge and look for a hole. They just shoot straight up the middle. So by doing that, they're not going to always get the big gains, but they're going to get bigger gains than Tyler got last year. Just because the type of runner that they're more straight ahead power running. If they can get behind the right guy, they might be able to break a couple. But so the Williams look good, and they're knocking off 5-6 yards of crack, which is what you want them to do, or more. So if they can do that this year and pick up where they left off in the bowl game, the Johnson and Patterson will have only spot duty and a hard time getting in. But if those guys get injured or not doing the job, then look for these guys to get some time. I really think they can. They've got a guy who could make some noise, Jacob Bostic, at wide receiver. I feel like we got wide receivers coming out of our ears, and this might be overall the best wide receivers that Iowa's had for a long time. So I think that's going to be kind of good overall class. And if we can get a quarterback who can get the ball to them, I mean, our quarterback is taking a lot of heat for what happened last year. Um, you know, and I just think I think this year he can't help but be improved. I really don't. I'm not going to throw the spring game out there. I think there was probably a lot of pressure on him to show what he could do. Plus, I think he didn't do a lot of series because I think, as our listed starter or our number one QB, I think they were just trying not to get him injured anymore. I mean, he did have some injuries last year that affected his play. He had a poor O line that affected his play. Um, but he showed flashes that he can get the ball to the people where the ball needs to be. And so I think by rumors of them making the offense less complicated, only not giving him more than one or two reads, um, he can do better and get the ball out quicker. I think the key is for him getting the ball out quicker and getting it accurately to where he wants to go. Just watch some of the other QBs in the Big Ten. I sometimes wish, that if Iowa had them, if Iowa had those QBs, how far Iowa could go, because they got some smart QBs who know how to get out of trouble and know where to put the ball when they are, and they always seem to, when Iowa's got them down, always seem to find a way to get a big play. I wish Iowa had that kind of a QB, but we don't. And it's disappointing to find out that Brian Ferentz said that they're not looking for that kind of a QB. They're looking for a QB who can just manage the offense, just a game manager. So is that fair to them, just to come in and be a game manager? I don't know. It's up to the guys who sign with Iowa if they like being a game manager, but that's all that seems like Brian Ferentz wants out of the QB. So just go out and be a better game manager for a QB. So, but anyway, I was just talking about, him getting the balls to the wide receivers. And the only new person I would see that in the wide receiver position coming out that I think would make some noise would be Jacob Bostic. Otherwise, we've got wide receivers all over the place. Okay. Another person who I think who could make some noise is Cale Crow. He's an offensive tackle. He could make some noise. Again, we've got an awful young line, but an experienced line now. A lot of the guys, weren't starters last year. They're coming in that line this year, but they have played in the O-line. But we also have a new center. I believe it's Logan Jones. Is that the guy they chose? And there's a guy named Malinsky who's been hurt, but he might be who was supposed to be the starter, may end up actually being the backup. And so he should see some time on the O-line too. So yeah, the O-line is going to be interesting to see what they do this year. Although they're young, they are. I call them more experienced, and they should play better than they did last year. If they can just give our quarterback a few more, another second or two, that might be all it needs for our quarterback to do what he needs to do. Okay. We already talked about Orlando Trader leaving at cornerback. Again, I think he would have had a chance to play a little bit. So, also, okay, Jack's second part of his question was, who do I think is going to lead the team in sacks? Wow, loaded question. I think it could be Van Ness or Joe Evans. Maybe even Nick DeJong if he can, gets in there. I think it's going to come from a defensive end. And so I don't know if all these guys are going to play defensive end or not. So that would be key. And I don't, even though I think Aaron Graves is going to play a little defensive end, I do not think he's going to lead the team in tackles because I think they're just not going to throw him to the wolves his first year out there. I think he's just going to work himself in. You know, it's kind of like Epineza did. Epineza did a few years ago when he was a freshman. He had spot duty there, showed flashes, did a few sacks, and got people excited. Then he came in his sophomore year, did a little more. His junior year, he wasn't even a starter his junior year. Didn't become a starter until his senior year. And so that's what's crazy. Or was that his junior year? Then he left after his junior year. It may have been his, I could be confused on that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But I was thinking he played all 4 years. But he could have just played 3 and left after his junior year. Anyhow, but whatever he left, it was the only year he did starting duty. And honestly, I thought his numbers were a little more disappointing the year he started than the numbers that he was producing as a third down, person, or sometimes they use him in other plays and stuff. But so yeah, about that. Okay, we're at 30 minutes. I just kind of wanted to go over some recruiting news and answer the one question for Jax. You guys feel free to answer the question every week. Ask a question. And I will try to get to as many questions as I can without, making it long-winded or go overboard and things like that. If you're planning on watching the Iowa baseball game at 9 o'clock this morning, you already know that the game is not being played. I believe it's being played 5 o'clock Central Time in Omaha against Penn State. Iowa number 3 seed, Penn State number 6 seed. So just tune in if they're actually it's on TV. I don't know if it's going to be on TV or not, guys. I really don't. But that was supposed to be a good game to watch on TV. But at my time, I get up, I tune in at 7, and the game's not there. What? Where's the game? Okay, rain out, guys, rain out. And according to the podcast I listened to out of Des Moines this morning, KXNO podcast, the Morning Rush show. It's supposed to rain all day in Omaha, so they're not convinced that Iowa's going to get to play that game today at 5 anyway. But they feel like more fans will be there tonight because more fans can run in from Des Moines and get to the game tonight after they get off work. So we'll see. That's about all I got today. Like I said, this time of year is kind of a slow news day, kind of slow news stuff, and you got to kind of find some stuff to go after. So I kind of thought this recruiting stuff was kind of good. I don't want to do the commit every time Iowa gets a new commit, do an analysis on them. Nolan Hawkeye Anthony does a great job, and you can find his videos here on this page, Iowa Hawkeye Sports, or 247hawkeye.com. Both of them on Facebook. And so you could find his videos there, and he does a great job, and there's no sense in me repeating everything he's going to do. So, kind of watch his videos. He does quite a few of them, and yeah, he's a little more interesting than me because he knows how to use the technology I haven't figured out how to use yet. Oh yeah, I wish I could get somebody to help me with that. So I can use some new backgrounds and figure out how to use extra video and things like that to keep you guys as interested. I know I'm not the world's most interesting person or funniest person, but I just like to get out here and do this. And so I appreciate those who are watching. I like to get a lot of views. I would still like to get up to 1,000 so that I can start getting paid for views. It would not help in retirement. I am retired, guys. Could use a little extra cash. If you want to feel sorry for me, follow me, subscribe, and then then do a view. Anyway, like I said before, there's a lot to see on this page. It's usually pretty wide open, and I'm not limited to one thing I do here. So I'm just going to run off and say, hey, we'll see what we do next week. I promise you guys we're going to do pre-game analysis before each game this year. We'll do a preview probably in August sometime of those games, and then we'll do more of an in-depth after we know what these teams are really like, more of an in-depth preview um, this year too. Each fall, each before each game, a couple days before, and then I will do post game. I don't know that I will do post game immediately after because there are a lot of good post game shows on. Nolan Hawkeye Anthony loves to do one right after, kind of an instant reaction one. Um, you know, WHO Sound Off out of Des Moines is a good one. Gary Dolphin, and Eddie Polak like to do one right after. So you guys are probably listening to some of those, and I will do my post game. Maybe the next day or later, depending on thing. Once my excitement or my anger settles down, so that I can give a better analysis and not more of an instant reaction because I don't want to do an instant reaction. Although my best video ever was the bowl game, the Kentucky lost bowl game. That was my best viewed video to date, and that was a very instant raw emotion video after the game was over. And so, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to get out of here. I'm not going to bore you any longer, and stay tuned for another video next week. And if you're wondering about the eye, that's not really an eye. That's a prosthetic eye, guys. It's just not sitting the way it's supposed to right now. I'm trying to get in to get it fixed. Okay. All right. Talk to you later.